Welcome to episode 92 of the Necronama.com. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now. And even though I'm in my 40s, I still worry sometimes that I might wake up and still be a person in high school.
And I am Dawn Guillory, historian, educator, co-host of this podcast. And yeah, that sounds terrifying. I don't know what I would do.
Right? It sounds fucking terrible. But speaking of high school girls, high school women, I don't know the proper term here. Back for her third episode, Gory Cory is here, everybody.
Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
Absolutely. So, Cory, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Cory McCullough, a teen horror blogger, student filmmaker, and Fangoria correspondent. I run GoryCory.com and am the co-host of the upcoming Scream Teens podcast for Anatomy of a Scream.
Perfect. All right. So let's switch back because that's going to fuck me up all episode. So, real Cory, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Also, thank you for putting up with my stupidity with crazy intros. So tell me about this upcoming project, the Scream Teens.
Yeah. So my friend Lena is from France. She's my age. She's 18, and we are starting a podcast sort of covering like our Gen Z perspective on horror in general, and sort of like our first introductions to certain horror tropes and that kind of thing. And it's pretty cool because she's super smart and knows everything about European history, basically. So she sort of brings like an interesting perspective to it because she talks about sort of like horror in Europe, and I talk about it in America.
That's cool.
That's fascinating.
And is that out now, or is it like coming soon?
It's coming soon.
Nice.
But in France, and you guys are communicating, or she's from France and is
she's
here?
In France.
Okay.
But she also she lived in China at some point. Like, she's been everywhere.
But I feel like that's so much more common for people that live in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And like in America, we're like, I went to Florida once, you know? And I get it. Like, geographically, that makes sense. Like, I grew up in Nebraska, so going to Florida is like 6 countries away in some places, you know?
Yeah.
But it's always amazing to me how Americans, we just kind of have, I don't even mean this insultingly, like it really just fascinates me, but we have like this thing where we're like, I've been to Mexico and Canada. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then you hear like people in other countries who are like, I've been in 47 countries or whatever.
Yeah. And they know so much about like the cultures when they go there, and it's incredible. I wish I could do that.
But yeah, that's something that frustrated me watching people debate, talk about, and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't get the whole, I've never left my town or my state or what, and the pride that comes from that, because you should experience the world. You don't want to get
you should want to leave.
Yeah. I mean, especially some of the hometowns that some people have, there's no way. Some of the places I've lived, I would have never wanted to say, I've never left this place.
Yeah.
You realize that you're missing so much stuff when you go someplace else. Like, I can't wait till, the travel bans or COVID is over, or you can just go somewhere, because I've told James, I'm like, dude, I'm just getting a flight. I don't even care. I'll go to Thailand. I'll go to Korea. I'll go to Australia. Like, I'm going to go somewhere and just disappear for like a week, as long as my wife is cool with me disappearing for a week. I will just disappear.
Oh, your wife will make
week.
you disappear longer than that.
Yeah, she probably will. But it's just one of those things. Like, I don't get the need to not experience this world.
Yeah, it really bugs me because I just don't understand how you could not want to like at least travel to a bunch of different cities if you live in a small town, or vice versa. Because I know I grew up in a small town. I was like, I cannot wait to go anywhere else.
Well, and I think a large part of it is fear. It's like I had a friend who lived in a town in Nebraska of 1,800 people. And if it was up to him, he would cut the town into like a fourth because it's too big. And when he would come to Lincoln, where I lived, which was like maybe 250,000, 300,000 population at that point, he would be like, oh, this is too crazy for me, man. Meanwhile, I'm the opposite. Like, I hate the outdoors.
Me too.
I want to be surrounded by buildings. I don't want to ever see the sky again. Okay, maybe it's not quite that far. But I'm the guy who wants to go to every old city in the world, and I want to go to fucking Hong Kong and like experience the insanity, you know? Like,
yeah,
like that's me. So clearly we didn't agree on that, but a lot of it was rooted in fear. It was, I've seen this on TV, so I expect this to happen to me in the city, and that doesn't happen in my little town. And I get it, but I can't imagine living that way.
Yeah.
Nothing against anyone who does. I'm just like, that would be hell to me.
I just have to have a place, or at least be at a place, and I'm getting a new renewed appreciation for it. Be in a place where stuff doesn't close like at 8, 9, but I don't mean as far as like things get crazy after 9, 10, because I've been in London at, after 9, 10 o'clock, and you can just go down to like the corner store. You can go down to a pub and
that's so nice.
Enjoy yourself. And it's not one of those things of, there's a whole bunch of people out in the street causing trouble. Some neighborhoods there, this is the case, but you can at least just, I don't feel like staying in a hostel right now. I'm going to go down the street and go get something to eat, or I'm going to go here. Or just the idea of being able to walk to something.
Yes.
Which is, or just take public transit to something, which again, if you've lived in rural areas like I have and lived in more metropolitan areas and suburbs and travel and things like that, once you ride the tube or the metro or whatever the one is in DC, but the subway in New York, you realize like how convenient that stuff is and how fun it is to actually be able to experience life.
Yeah. And sort of like you have so much more independence than you would in like a rural town.
Yeah. And I think that's really a cool thing that, to bring it back to the film that we're going to talk about, the whole idea behind walking in somebody else's shoes, it gives you that glimmer of what somebody else's life is like, or what you're even missing in your own life, which I think is a phenomenal thing with movies like this. Now, I love the fact that someone took a horror spin with this, but the whole idea of the body changing or walking in someone else's skin or their shoes or anything like that is just it's a great way to talk about some things cinematically that teenagers experience versus adults, men versus women versus, just all these different things that you can see what somebody else's existence is like that is sometimes foreign from your own.
Definitely.
That's a beautiful tie-in to the film. I'm not even going to edit that out. I'm 100% impressed with you, and you have it recorded.
Wow, this is a big day.
Sweet. I'm going to download and save this one.
Oh my God, he's going to actually download one of our episodes. All right. So, see, that didn't last long. So normally I would do the why'd you pick this, but I picked this. So the reason I picked this is I am a diehard teen movie guy. Like my favorite movies are like Mean Girls, Not Another Teen Movie, Easy A. Like this is the stuff I watch when I'm having a shitty day and I need to feel better, right?
Oh, that makes me so happy.
And so the minute this trailer dropped, I was like, holy shit, this was made for me. It's slashers mixed with my favorite genre. What is happening, right? And then the fact that this script was originally called Freaky Friday the 13th is great. and I got to tell you, the second this film starts, I do this thing every fucking time. I don't know what my problem is. I start a movie, I pause it like 2 seconds in, and then I go make popcorn or get my drinks or whatever else I'm doing. It's like I'm telling myself, when you come back, you have to do this. I don't know. I paused it and it said Wednesday the 11th. And I was sitting in my chair dying laughing. Like I couldn't get up and go get stuff. And I was like, I'm screwed. This is going to be one of my favorite movies. So yeah, I picked this because obviously it went VOD this week. I already felt like this was the film for us. So I'm glad you're here. I think it's going to add an awesome spin we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Thank you. I'm so happy that I get to talk about it. This is one of my favorite movies of the year. It's so good.
Yes. So I'm going to start with Don then. Don, what did you think of this film?
I got a little nostalgic, for a lot of the body switching movies and TV shows. Like one of my favorite TV shows, which is Quantum Leap, because I'm one of the people who argues that every episode of that show, it's sci-fi, because I don't look at the show as drama. I saw it as like sci-fi history / horror, because there was some serious stuff that went down in those episodes that a lot of people, even now, I mean, but I would say in the 90s, I thought the show was very progressive to get people talking about stuff that people even in 2021 aren't willing to talk about or a little bit fearful about. But when I saw the trailer for it, I think I might have texted you or you texted me at the same time. And I think my response, either my response or my message in the text was, "Holy shit, we need to watch this movie. Did you see this movie?" I was like, I'm not really a Vince Vaughn fan, but I'm going to watch this one because it's a really cool premise. Because I love like the body switching movies. So I was looking for. I shouldn't say I was looking to really have my hopes shattered. Just because of everything with COVID and not being able to see the film. Because I was like, we're gonna eventually get to see it. Whether it's good, it'll be something to talk about. If it's bad, it'll be something to talk about. And fortunately, it was good and very inventive, very creative, and very original in a lot of different ways. To where I had a renewed appreciation for it. So anybody that this is their first exposure to either horror because of this film, or it's their first exposure to body switching movies. I think this is going to open up a lot of doors for people.
Definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you say creative. These first kills are just fucking great. First kill. Oh my God.
Incredible.
I'm like, he puts a fucking wine bottle in a kid's throat and smashes it. How have I never fucking seen this done before?
When the wine
has been, maybe you guys can nail me with some movies, but I haven't seen it before. Holy shit.
I don't think I have either. When the wine spilled, I got like sent back to 10th grade and I was like, oh, A Tale of Two Cities. No, but it was so good. I love it.
Yeah, that was the first thing I wrote down. Oh, that the bottle kill. Holy shit. That's exactly what I wrote in my notes. There were a couple of moments where things were a little bit predictable because of the way they were building tension, right? But it wasn't predictable as far as how it was going to be done.
Yeah.
Because when the kid, I forget his name, drops the bottle of it and he horribly pronounces the name. And when he drops, he's like, "Oh, thanks for scaring me. That was a really old bottle of wine." And as a person who likes wine, my first thought was like, you fucking wasted all that wine. You need to die. There's no excuse for that. So, I'm thinking like, oh, the other end of the bottle, the killer's going to grab and like slash his throat or something. But just the way it gets set up to where he turns around, boom, bottle down the throat. The glass shards come out of his neck.
Yeah,
it was outstanding. Outstanding.
Can we also talk about the tennis racket though?
Well, yeah.
That was, I think, my favorite.
I could see that. That's a pretty good kill.
I just I didn't realize that was how he was going to do it.
Well, and it's such a great like throw to like comedy because you have like the old arrow through the head trick, or whatever you want to call it. And what I liked is that he didn't just take the fucking tennis racket and jam it through one side of the head out the other. Oh no. Let's break the tennis racket and stab both sides into your head. Fucking great. These opening kills are just off the charts great.
I love how he just like totally improvs too, and it's so inventive. They were perfect. I
feel like that's one of the things that makes certain slashers for me is you want that creativity and you want that holy shit moment, right?
Exactly.
And like we've all watched 600 slashers. There's only so many times that you can have a boring kill and still make me want to care. And it's not that we're all like, oh wow, the what is he, the Blitzfield Butcher? Is that the town? Mm-hmm. Anyway, like it's not like we're all like, oh, we love the Butcher. The Butcher is so great. No, like we have to be excited for something. And I got to say, Vince Vaughn pulled this off really well. I was not expecting to like him as the killer, but that fucking part where he just like walks through the glass door.
Yes.
I was like, damn, all right. This is like, I'm buying this. Great job. Yeah, I don't know. I want to see more of that. Like, I could have handled another half an hour of the butcher killing people, man.
That's one thing I wrote down is I would have liked to see more kills for sure. The kills we got were really nice, but I wanted more.
Well, they're fun, even like the shop teacher or whatever else.
The shop teacher, yes.
I mean, we'll get there, but like, there's so many fun kills, and they also did a good job of making me really dislike the people being killed, so that I was like, do it.
Yeah.
Well, here's why you dislike those people. All those characters are timeless. Within teen films, whether we're talking about comedic teen films or horror films or dramas or even just real life, because I saw those people. I mean, of course, the cell phones weren't around, the smartphones weren't around when I was in high school, but I went to school with several of those people. You know, like oh God, I forgot her name, but the one who Ryler. Like, the tragedy has to be about her. You know, this is the kind of person like the character in The Hate We Give, when they're having, you know, that memorial for the guy who's killed by the police, and she immediately starts getting it trending just so, you know, she can get people to you know, follow onto her, but then also organizes a protest because they want to get out of going to a test. So you see how this person's so disingenuous about so many things. And if someone's going through a traumatic event, it's like, oh, let me latch onto you because this will increase my popularity by being somewhat sympathetic. You know, whether it was taking an Instagram video or Facebook Live video talking about how much she misses the guys who got killed and the girls who got killed the other night. Oh, you know, we won't forget you.
And that's something. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's like something that's so real today. I know, like, because there are unfortunately a lot of teen suicides, and there was a kid at my friend's school who unfortunately killed himself because he was bullied so horribly, and every single one of his bullies was posting on Facebook like, we miss you, oh my gosh, my best friend, and when they were like the ones that bullied him into doing it. And that, it just makes me so upset, but that was so spot on, because it's exactly like that, where they keep trying to get social media attention.
Yeah, and I don't like, that's almost as bad of sociopathic behavior as the butcher. You know, it's just one of those things of I'm so self-centered and so I can't even think of the term for it. Just such a shitty person that this is my outlet. So when I have to treat you horribly, right? I have to make fun of you because you're poor, or you have these weird clothes, or you have weird hair, or, talk about your sexuality or any of these things, right? To make myself feel better. But then if I drive you to do it, it almost seems as though there's no empathy that these characters go through. And these people in real life go through, because, for them, it's like, oh, well, they killed themselves because, they were a loser, or they killed themselves because they were too weak, or, whatever all these ridiculous, arguments are that these people try to, drum up for themselves. But you see it play out here, where you've got people who are just constantly bullying, not just Millie, but bullying people in the school. I don't know, out of survival, or at least from their estimation, out of survival. This is what they have to do in this arena. Even the teacher.
I was gonna say, the fucking teachers are bullying people.
That is too real. Yeah. I will say, the meanest people in high school are not the kids. They're the teachers. They can be so mean.
I'm telling you from firsthand experience, yes, I will agree with you. Hopefully I was never like that to any of my students. I'm sure there are probably some students who felt like I was like that with them, but I had to interject a couple of times when I saw other adults acting like that. And I quickly just became that person. I'm like, I'm just going to talk to the kids. You adults are just horrible people. So you guys are just horrible.
No, I thought that was something that really stuck with me because that's how it was in high school for me as well. You just had, I wouldn't even say they were bullies, but they were just meaner to certain students.
Yes.
And for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's not the kids that like acted up all the time. It was just like they just picked somebody and fucking hated that kid, you know?
The worst is the ones that like try to prove that they're smarter than the people they're teaching. And it's like, we get it. You're a teacher. You don't need to prove it. Like,
what a strange ego need, huh?
Oh God, it's so weird.
The teacher played by, I can't remember his name, but he played Cameron in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one thing that I got from any of these teachers, whether it was represented in the film here or in real life, my first thought was like, don't you remember how much it sucked to be a teenager? And here you are being an ass to one, like for no reason. Like, okay, she came a little bit late and okay, her project isn't ready. And you changed the date of when the project would be ready, which again, makes no sense. Projects get moved back. They don't get moved up. Grades get moved. I mean, once you've graded, they can only go up. You're not allowed to move them back down. So you're looking at this guy and my immediate thought was like, I hope he doesn't make it to the end of the film. I hope he doesn't. I mean, I got my wish, but it is frustrating to see somebody in that position not remember or what it was like at that age or to not empathize with somebody at that age. Because with high school students or any students for that matter, you're not looking at them as they are right now. You're trying to look at them 5, 10, 15 years from now and making sure that you're one of those people that helps push them in a positive way, as opposed to, oh, that's Mr. Smith. He was such a jerk to me. Oh, let me just go slash his tires.
That's actually a really good philosophy to have. I wish more teachers thought about it like that.
That moment where you see Millie, at least initially, going through the hallways, that, and then of course the comparison of when it's the butcher in Millie's body. Mm-hmm. But when you see Millie walking through the school, and all I'm thinking is like, damn it, I remember how much that sucked. Like that's scarier than most days that you would have as a kid, is walking through the hallway. Is somebody saying something about me? Is somebody going to throw something at me? Is somebody going to come in and just pick on me for whatever reason? Right. Is somebody going to try and start a fight because someone else started a rumor that I said something? But just that walk itself, it's almost like that walk to the gallows or that walk to the gas chamber, because you don't know what's going to happen, but you're already fearing the worst.
Yeah, definitely.
Was I the only one who didn't buy her as a wallflower? I know this is a really weird complaint with the film, but I felt like I didn't feel like she was really that disconnected from the popular, being able to be in the popular group. There was something about her that I was just like, I don't know.
I mean, she definitely does look like the stereotypical, like, Sharpay Evans popular character in a movie.
But I think it was also her friends. Like, her friends were like, you're a piece, you're hot, you're this, like, I just felt like if even they know this, I feel like you're not really that far outcast. But I also feel like that's part of the point of the film, like that she has to find that confidence because she is already there. But it really like tugged at me at the beginning of this. Like, I just didn't buy it. I don't know.
Well, don't forget this though. Even though it's not working for you, you're this guy who likes all these teen movies, right?
Yeah, and she needs glasses and a ponytail, some overalls with some paint.
But a lot of the wallflowers themselves, it takes that moment of them getting that confidence to realize, like, oh, they're not like that. Whether it is just the ponytail or the glasses that are holding them back or whatever it is. Sometimes it's simply like, I'm not interested in what all these other people are interested in. I'm a little geeky. I'm a little nerdy. I like, arts and crafts, or I like Star Trek, or I happen to be in the science and math club, and I don't have the time for any of that stuff. So, it just becomes one of those things where you become a target no matter what your aesthetic level is.
I suppose, but I don't get that vibe from her. Like, she feels like she's seeking that attention and seeking like the boys she likes and that kind of stuff. So I don't feel like it's as trying to be like, I'm not involved in this. I think that she wants to be involved in that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I related to her character a lot, so I probably projected a lot. But
yeah, cool.
I know for me, at least, I always thought that I was this like very similar, like the loser that no one liked. And then I realized like no one cares. I was like, I'm not a loser. I'm just irrelevant in people. Like no one's thinking about her is what I figured. And she's sort of setting it up as like people are constantly picking on her and constantly thinking about her. Whereas I think it's more so that she just sort of flies under the radar.
Wow. I like that a lot. I think that makes me feel it a lot more. Like I wish I would have had that feeling going into it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really I think it's really common for all of us to think like everyone hates us or like everyone's constantly critiquing us when really people just don't care. Right. Which for some people is worse because they want the attention. But I just think that's like once I came to that realization, I was like, oh, so it really doesn't matter. Like I can do whatever I want and wear whatever I want. No one's going to care.
Yeah, it's like how Don and I always think that people will attack us on social media, but people just like don't even leave any comments or like rate our podcast or like put any.
And you're like, well, I wanted a little bit of the attention.
But no, okay. No, I like that. I think you just changed my mind on it. I think I like it a lot more. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad. Again, that's definitely me projecting. Like I projected a lot onto that character. She's very relatable.
But I think that's the thing I was saying at the beginning, that I think that you'll bring a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily have to this episode because I'm not in that frame of mind and I'm not in that environment, so I don't think in those terms. And I'm looking at it more like I've seen 1,000 teen films and she's like a character of an outcast who's not quite pulling it off instead of what she's supposed to be. But your answer brings it into the real world and it's so much more solid.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Cory, why don't you, you said this is one of your favorite movies of the year or the favorite. What is it about this? Like, is it that connection of projecting on her and feeling that, or like, is there more to it? Like, what is it that makes this so great to you?
Yeah, well, I think it's a combination of a lot of that. She's definitely a very relatable character, especially for Gen Z being so anxious and having like past traumas that she's not really been able to get over and not really knowing how to get over them or how to talk about them. Even though she does have like a good support system, just not really knowing how to deal with like everything going on in her life. And then I personally, I've seen a lot of people do this take on Twitter where I think it's really interesting to think about gender roles when we look at this, and sort of when you're a teen, that's a common time to like question your gender and your sexuality. So her literally switching bodies with like a grown man would help her a lot think about gender roles and sort of where she thinks her gender fits in society. Not necessarily that she's trans, but like just I feel like most teens at that age are questioning. So I think that was really cool. And it was also just really funny. And I really wanted more slashers for my generation because we literally don't have any. I mean, the horror movies we do have are like It and their remakes. So I thought this was just such a nice, fresh perspective. And it was fairly accurate to the Gen Z high school experience.
I always think that's weird. You guys are like forced to have all these reboots of things your parents forced you to watch.
It's so lame. It's not fun.
Like, it's a weird like whole genre to me because I'm like, the people who originally loved these films fucking hate reboots. And they're all like, how dare you ruin my childhood or whatever else, right? Like it's always like
they're the one movie you
can't touch. Yeah, exactly. And then we're like, we force our kids to watch these films. I've done it myself, and mine was The Muppets. I grew up loving The Muppets. So when the new Muppets dropped, I made my 3 sons watch it, and they were all like, what the fuck is this shit? And but no, that's how I feel. I feel like we're forcing you guys to watch reboots we don't want of films we've already forced you to watch that you didn't want to watch the first time.
So. I mean, yeah, I think there's definitely like a space for reboots, but I really just don't. I'm so tired. And I think it's like when we see things like Euphoria or Frozen that are like completely new ideas, they become huge and everyone loves them and it's for reasons because we want to see some creativity and we're so tired of people just not thinking of unique ideas. Because there are also, this is just a little rant of my own, there are so many writers that are trying to get their own original content like out into the film industry and no one is taking their pitches because they only want reboots. And that drives me insane. I just want original content. And I don't think that should be too much to ask.
Well,
it's not too much to ask.
No, and you can do it correctly. And the example I'll use is the Mortuary Collection.
Yes.
Mortuary Collection is a complete fucking throwback. It hits every fucking note for people like me and Don who adore anthology horror films. And yet it's new, it's fun, it hits topics that are fucking awesome.
Yes.
Like the
pregnant
guy.
Yeah. Who's played by an actor that Gen Z loves. So it's like perfect mix.
And that's how you do it. It's hitting every note for people like me while giving your generation something great that's new. And it brings us all together and we're all like, yes, let's love this thing together. And I feel like that's what a lot of writers are trying to do. And like they're just getting shut down.
Yeah, and it sucks. Because I've read so many original scripts that are so good. And I know Gen Z would love them. And they would be like the next big thing, and they're just not getting picked up.
Check out our episode on the Mortuary Collection. Anyway, but yeah, let's bring it back to something else you said. You were talking about the switching of the bodies and that whole exploration of sexuality as well as identity and just all of that. And what they did in this movie that was amazing to me is it all fits in character as well. So she switches bodies. She gets empowered. She finds this confidence. Mm-hmm. She finds this literal physical power, strength that she didn't have, and meanwhile, he stays in character and instantly gets manipulative with it. I can get closer to my victims and I can get away with it because they see a weak little girl and I can do this and that. And I love how it's tied directly into the character. It's not just two people switching bodies. It's two people switching bodies. And then there's another layer of that exploration. And I like that we get the funny parts, like where she's wiggling his dick back and forth. That's hilarious. That is fucking funny.
Yeah.
And I liked that he didn't get too pervy. Like he does like a quick little squeeze. And I thought that that's normal because you'd be like, what the fuck, but like, he doesn't get weird like Rob Schneider in that one film. And what was that? The hot chick? Yeah. Like you don't get that same vibe. You don't get that same vibe, like
I was really glad they didn't do that because that would have definitely made the movie completely different.
I don't think we'd be covering it right now if they did.
Yeah.
And I say that because I feel like it's this exploration of identity and sexuality and the manipulation and that stuff. That's the strength of this fucking film. And that's what both of these actors did so well.
And what a way to what a metaphor for puberty and sort of coming of age than to literally body swap. Like that is so genius. And I'm shocked that I'm shocked that we hadn't seen as much like it before.
To pick up off of what Corey was saying, as far as that was something that I've seen in a few of the body switching movies, but they've never really explored it as far as the whole strength versus weakness dichotomy, mm-hmm. right? Or even the confidence versus self-conscious dichotomy. Because I was just thinking vice versa with Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage. where the dad and the son change bodies. I mean, it's one of those things they've done so many times where it's the dad and the son, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't just say within the family. And the first thing or I shouldn't say the first thing he does, but one of the first things that happens when Fred Savage is in Judge Reinhold's body, he's, oh my gosh, look, I've got muscle. So he starts like lifting weights because he's a grown man now. He can be a whole lot stronger, and he tries to be cool because he's trying to figure out how to be an adult, right? And then you see how Fred Savage's body, which is now Judge Reinhold inside, it's just kind of like he doesn't have time for petty nonsense with children. And that, the attitudes change. You see that. But in this film, I love how it's trying to figure out what's going on, but not confronting anybody about it and saying like, hey, it's me, right? And even going so far as she wakes up in his body, this guy wants drugs, and she basically says, he's like, I'm a teenage girl. You don't see a teenage girl. It's like, hey, whatever you got, man, I'll take it because I want to feel like a teenage girl too. And it was a great comedic moment. But then you see how she is then running outside and having to deal with the fact that she's the butcher. And my first thought was, this description is out there, which is a cool touch, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of these body swap, there's really, it's almost as if the person goes to bed and, oh, you don't know what it's like to be a kid. Oh, you don't know what it's like to be an adult. And it's just, they wake up and they're the other person. This, when you have those moments after the attack, after, they use the Ladola, or he uses the Ladola to stab Millie, there are hours that can go by before they actually switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she has time to give a description of what the butcher looks like. And it's a very accurate description, so that when Millie is walking around in his body, she's not thinking, oh, shit, people are going to be looking for the butcher. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And then as soon as somebody sees her in his body, they realize like, oh, you're the butcher. And she realizes, oh, crap, I need to hide. I need to run. I need to figure something out, because if I get arrested like this, game's over.
Yeah. And it's such an interesting take on it, in the way that like she has to sort of deal with it on her own.
Right. Yeah, because no one really explains. I mean, when you're talking about, the change of puberty and things like that,
that's just something you got to go through. Like,
yeah, it's
you can't talk to people about it.
No, God, no. Like the first time my voice changed, I was like, what the hell? And my parents were no help. This is not me crapping on my parents, but my parents were no help in that department, because one, when you're going through it, you don't know how to ask the questions.
Yeah.
And then two, odds are you don't want the answers either.
And you don't want them from them.
Exactly. Because even when it came to that time period, my dad's conversation was, hey, if you have sex, wear a condom. There was no other discussion about anything else. My mom, on the other hand, there was nothing that was discussed.
Yeah.
Other than, here's some deodorant. You probably need to start putting this on. It was that type of stuff. It's like, you got hormones and there's some smells now. But yeah, just the whole idea that she has to figure it out on her own, while the butcher has figured out pretty quickly to the point where, oh, I'm going to start killing the people that are right here. My bloodlust has not been satiated.
I do like how he targets people that piss him off.
Yeah.
And of course, they're the people that have been bullying her. So it kind of works out in everyone's favor.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know he's a bad guy, but some of it was okay. I feel like
you weren't going to miss them. You already were invested in not liking them, especially Ryler, because the first interaction that she has, when Millie's body shows up to school, when the butcher shows up in Millie's body, it's, oh my gosh, let me get a Instagram with you, or get a live with you, or whatever, Snapchat, right? To the point where the butcher doesn't know who are Millie's friends. So when her friends actually show up, they're thinking like, well, she's pissed off at us about something. We left her there. She was by herself. Maybe she's mad at us. And, Ryler falls for this, this whole thing of, oh, I'm going to give you an exclusive, to the point where she thinks that, oh, she's coming on to me. She's trying to have sex with me. And then goes even further to where she starts texting her friends. It's like, oh, yeah, she's a complete lesbian. I told you guys, just continuing to like just shit on her.
Yeah.
So I didn't miss when she was put in a cryo freeze, which.
Oh, I was cheering the Butcher on.
Oh, it was great. All I was like, James has to love this one.
Mine was the shop teacher. He was the one I couldn't wait till he fucking died, man.
Yeah. That was so epic too. With all the blood.
Yes.
Well, and it's so built up. Like you know where it's going. It's going to this table saw. You don't show a table saw, turn the fucking thing on, and then not use it. Right. We all know that's where it's going. And I love that it's not instant. It's not easy for him. Right. He gets that. What was that? A screwdriver that he takes to the neck? That was fucking great. Like it looked so good. And when he reached up to pull it out, I'm just thinking that's a bad idea, buddy. You got to leave that in and have the professionals take it out. But he didn't listen. And but I love that even when he hits the table, he doesn't hit the saw right away.
Yeah.
And then
it was very sort of realistic.
Yeah, it was great. And then the Butcher, pushes him in and you get the almighty saw moment. And I think that payoff was so much better than, if you just picked him up and chucked him in, because we want this fucker to suffer.
Yeah.
Well, if I may, I do have to say this is kind of an appreciation for the meticulousness of the Butcher. He put the goggles on.
Oh, that was so good.
And it was one of those things. As soon as I saw the goggles, it's like, now this is what people need to use in science labs and wood shop and whatever from now on. Instead of the whole Billy didn't believe in wearing goggles. Billy got acid in his eye. Now Billy's blind. No, it's hey.
Did you guys have those posters in your school too?
Oh, I've seen them.
Oh my god.
Just hey, if you want to make sure you don't get blood in your eye, in brain tissue and stuff like that, put your goggles on.
The other part I liked about that is that the Butcher wasn't overly covered in blood. It was like a little bit on the goggles. So they weren't really that necessary. And I thought that was way funnier than if they'd been covered in blood. Also, I'm noticing it's hard to talk about without using pronouns. Because I'm like, she, and then I'm like, well, no, the Butcher, well, fuck.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's an awesome part of this. I think that's a great side effect of this.
Well, the friends, I can't remember if it was Josh or Nyla who brought it up, but even when they understand who's who, they applied gender to it as well. And they said, you need to watch your pronouns. And I love that they included that. I mean, of course, people are going to be like, oh, what's important about a pronoun? It's very important when you're talking about someone's identity and who they are, because she is in that body at this point. You may see a man at that, on the outside, but Millie is on the inside. So her gender is who she is, or I should say her gender is part of her identity. So yeah, you're not going to want to misgender her at all, because let's be sensible here.
That's a perfect way of saying it. Yeah. And that's something I really appreciated about the film. Because what a great way to explain how gender isn't biological.
Right.
And also
this is just a great summary of that I'm going to use going forward. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to mention that Celeste O'Connor and Misha Oshirovitz, who play Josh and Nyla, are both non-binary actors, and that's really cool.
Nice. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I want to jump ahead to the kiss.
Okay.
Because it goes into this conversation. The kiss is probably one of my 3 favorite parts of this film, and that's ranking it over some of the kills.
Okay.
I was so happy that they did this, because I'll be honest, I would expect Hollywood not to touch it.
Yeah.
I would expect Hollywood to infer that it happened, and they don't do that. They don't fuck around with this. And I love that it adds to the characterization of the boyfriend. What's his name? Booker?
Yes.
And it adds to his characterization because he doesn't give a shit who she is on the outside. And you never, as a person who loves teen movies, you never fucking see that in a teen movie. Okay? You get people who claim that, but this level of not caring who she is on the outside, that's fucking amazing.
But yeah, it adds so much more realism because Millie would want to kiss Booker.
Yeah.
Right? And Booker, understanding the circumstance of going through things and understanding that is her, he's not going to see the outside, as you pointed out, James. He's going to see who Millie is. My wife was watching it with me, and she was like, "They're not going to, are they?" And I was like, "Yeah, they are." And I love the fact, as you point out, that they put this in the film, but then they have this moment after the kiss where I guess the humor comes back, where Millie states, "Well, you should probably wait until I get back in my other body to go to kiss some more because, butcher, yellow teeth."
The yellow teeth was such a nice touch.
Yeah. I remember when I watched this, I was like, are they about to kiss right now? It was like, I was very confused and was like, no. And then they did. And my mom and I watched it together and we both like screamed at the top of our lungs because we just weren't expecting it. And I think it's such a beautiful moment. And it really is such a wholesome, nice scene that makes you like Booker's character so much more. But at the same time, it's sort of funny, but it does that perfect balance of wholesome comedy that just, it says everything you need to know about his character.
And I would argue that first kisses are always funny.
Yeah.
Not to the people engaged in it, but but no, they're humorous. There's all that tension and that anxiety and the, am I supposed to do this? Am I not? Is this the right choice? And so I just fucking love this scene. From not expecting them to go through with it to what it means for the characters, but also as an audience. I think that we get this thing that is now more normalized because of this. And it should be. We shouldn't be talking about how weird this is because we should be living in a society where it's not.
You got to think about, even a few years ago, there was that, I don't even want to say controversy. There was just that the ignorance about the kiss in Beauty and the Beast.
Oh my God.
Where this one theater was like, oh, we're not, well, it was Alabama. So I'm sorry anybody who's listening in Alabama, but I'm going to do it. We're not going to show that movie at our theater because we're not going to have two boys kissing. But they were like, we're not going to show Beauty and the Beast because there are two men kissing in it. Or when Michael Sam was drafted in the NFL draft. 2015, 2016. It wasn't even aired live. He kissed his partner and they weren't making out. They weren't having sex on camera or anything. It wasn't anything. It wasn't anything that was kind of like you would look at it and say all right, that was a little much. They kissed each other, a quick kiss on the lips, and people were like, I can't believe he's putting his gayness on display and throwing it in our faces. He's not throwing anything in your faces any more than heterosexual couples are throwing things in your faces. But yeah, it's just asinine that here we are the film came out in 2020, but here we are in 2021. And there are still people that are going to react that same way, because when I saw the kiss, it was really one of those things of, her body versus the butcher's body versus the identity of the person that's there. And then the idea that this guy, Booker, is a quality person because he loves Millie or is interested in Millie, no matter what she looks like.
Yeah.
Which is very reassuring. And as I think James brought up, you don't see in teen movies to begin with, right?
You don't see it in most movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see it in a couple of adult movies or I should say movies with adult characters where, the person has been in a car accident and they have some scars, but it's ridiculous because the scars aren't that deep. It's like one scar that's hidden by their eyebrow. It's like, I love you no matter what, no matter how many scars you have.
Yeah.
And the person still is like I can't even think of it. It's like Margot Robbie. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I got a cut on my leg. I have a scar. Oh, I still love you.
This really made me think about, like, I don't know if you remember when Caitlyn Jenner transitioned, but
Yes.
Kris Kardashian, they got a divorce and Kris Kardashian was like, she's just a different person, like completely different person. And I don't know enough about their relationship to like really speak on that, but I was thinking a lot about like if your partner came out as trans after you got married or were dating, it would just like the fact that Booker didn't care that she was a man was so, it was just such a nice point that we don't get to see. And I thought that's something that we really need to normalize.
I've only seen a couple of cases like that. I think one was in a documentary. It was called the L Word in Mississippi. It followed lesbian couples, and one of the couples, they were lesbians. They're both women, both cisgender women. I'm sorry, one was cisgender woman. The other person in the relationship, she was female, transitioned to male, and they discussed this aspect of the partner changing or partner going through the surgery and things like that. And, what the cisgender lesbian brought up was, this is still my partner. This is still the person I love. I didn't know what to think at first, but this is still the person I love.
Yeah.
And, I think the thing that she most questioned was like, I don't know if I'm still a lesbian though. Would I qualify as? And she kind of joked about it. She's like, well, she is now a man, and if I'm still attracted to her as a man, and kind of joking through, her own thing. She's like, this is my partner. He is a man now. That is still the same person that was inside that body when we met, when we fell in love. And yeah, I think that the Kris Jenner is a great one, because you do then start to question whether or not somebody is educated on that topic, or willing to, or at least how far their love goes with certain things, and as far as understanding who their partner really is, and I think what they really did was it displayed that she didn't know, and to an extent, Caitlyn didn't know, because Caitlyn was under the impression, or I'm assuming was under the impression, that this person is with me throughout.
Yeah.
But then again, that's getting to somebody else's relationship, and there's probably all types of secrets and things that they don't want to talk about or haven't talked about. Hell, it could have just been an arranged marriage for all we know.
Honestly.
I need to have kids, and I want them to be famous, and and you're famous, and I know you.
Yeah, I've never understood any of my own relationships, so I try not to understand anyone else's.
And you know what? That's
the way to be.
That's fair.
And I'm not trying to say that like Kris Jenner was a bad person or anything for not. I just mean like it was it just seems like it's interesting to look at. I know he's a fictional character, but like how Booker responded versus like how people in real life have responded. And I guess it also raises the question, is Booker pan? Or is he still straight identifying?
Well, there have been cases, and I'm going to butcher any of the historical memory on this, but there were cases of transgender women, men transitioning to women, back in the 40s and 50s, and they had cisgender male partners. And it was kind of the same thing where, just the tabloids and even the general press and international press latched on to the stories of these women, and the way they were presented in public, they were not treated as like sideshows or frauds, or they were presented as women. And it frustrated me reading these stories from the 50s.
Yeah.
That kind of got buried or suppressed in some way to where we weren't having these conversations again about transgender issues and transgender identity until I would say the late 90s, probably the early 2000s at the best. And within probably the last 6-7 years, when we've had real discussions about identity and gender.
Yeah.
And all the different aspects that go into gender, because I will be the first to admit, I don't know, but I want to learn.
Exactly. It's so confusing. Gender is so confusing for everyone. And I think we need to talk about it in society, and we need more movies like Freaky so that we can normalize understanding the difference between like your gender and your assigned gender at birth.
Oh yeah.
You even just need to like normalize being able to talk about things.
Yes.
And I'm not talking the bullshit of we need unity or whatever, that kind of shit. I'm talking stuff like this where legitimately most of us aren't experiencing it firsthand, and we're trying to learn, and there is a learning curve to it, and there's many steps, and I think we just need to normalize not having answers.
Yeah.
And needing to learn and going to the expert on it, while also not expecting them to have to teach us everything. Like,
yeah,
just because I ask you to help me doesn't mean you have to.
Right.
But we should normalize asking for help.
Absolutely.
Right. Because think about, like, even in Millie's case, like talking about her father, she really didn't seem to have an outlet of anyone she could have talked to.
And I'm glad you point that out, because you see how, and it's not just her, it's her sister and her mom. Like none of them are her mom is processing it through drinking and trying to find someone else. And it's a really good analysis of grief and coping and how people, I guess, try to move on.
Mm-hmm.
And almost like the awkwardness of it, because like, what do you do in that situation? How are you supposed to move on?
Well, and I think I really personally enjoyed how different each person is dealing with it. Yeah. Because even we accept that her mom's dealing with it through drinking, but it doesn't mean that it's excessive. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, yeah, we get an example where she sleeps through picking her up and her daughter almost gets killed. And sure, that seems excessive, but that could have been a one-time thing.
Yeah. She can still hold the job.
Yeah, exactly. And she's there and she's doing a great job. And she's clearly not fucking drunk during that scene where she's at work.
Yeah.
But just because Shar thinks that she's drinking too much doesn't mean she is. It doesn't mean that she's not. But I love these layers of the reality of the grief, because to me, Shar is taking on the more manly role, right? Like she's trying to be the new dad. She's out there with a full-time job. And on top of that, the symbolism of her being a police officer while being the more manly one. And then, her sister literally becomes a man. Right. But no, but like, you have to think that if she's taking on that role, and it feels like she made this choice, whether consciously or not, she's taking on that role. So she's going to have even more complaints about mom not pulling her weight. And she's going to find reasons to be, this is why I have to do this, because you fucking suck at this, And then just not knowing how to talk to her sister and not knowing how to talk to her own mom about this. And she's not going to work and talking to the other cops about her feelings. Like that's not what you do in that situation, so she's kind of bottling it all up, and then her mom is in a bottle. See what I did there? And then we have Millie, who just wants everything to be okay. She wants everyone to be okay. She's trying her best to hold everything together and do what she thinks other people need. And even Nyla tells her you can't live your life for other people. And that's exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
And I love this exploration, because I feel like we totally get enough to completely empathize with all three of them and their different roles. And yet it doesn't feel like we wasted a lot of movie on it.
Yeah.
And you also even see how the mom with those breakfasts. I mean, the two times that we get to see her making breakfast.
I'm going to her house, man.
Yeah.
Most definitely. The banana pancakes. I'm a waffle guy, but hey, I'll try those bananas.
I might eat them like the butcher does. All right, go ahead.
I did laugh when it was the because my parents, I've never heard hey, it's a family recipe with anything. It just seemed kind of like the corny mom, the commercial mom type thing. And I was sitting there, I was like, no one brags to their own kids about the recipe. You brag that to your kids' friends when they come to eat. But just the care, the level of care that she seems to have for her family. I hate to say that it gets undercut with, her not showing up. And as you said, it may have been a one-time thing. It may happen a few times, but it's still one of those things.
You can see she's trying.
Yeah, you can see she cares. And I don't know. It's just frustrating to see this from the outside. And then kind of question, like, what would I do? I'd probably be just like Millie, or I'd probably be like Charlene. I'd either wouldn't talk about it and I just go ahead and deal with my work. Actually, that's probably what would happen, because that's what I did recently when something like this happened. I just basically just shut off a lot of stuff and I just worked. But I think this is important to include, because you actually care about them at the beginning, but then you care about them. I mean, you care about them as far as relating to them a little bit, but do you really care about them when they come together because of tragedy at the end and kick the shit out of the butcher and then kill him? But it's a great, I guess, bookend. Not to say that everything is great with their family afterwards, but you get to see this bookend of this family connection, or at least the way that they relate to each other, the way that they have go through trauma together,
and the way that they're able to live sort of without their dad and be okay with it, because obviously the stereotypical role for the father would be to protect the other people in the house.
Exactly.
But they're able to do it by working together themselves.
And when I watched this, my very first thought was, oh man, she doesn't kill Butcher herself. And like, that's always this thing for me where the hero has to be the one to do it. And she does. She makes the final shot. So that's covered. I just wasn't feeling it in that second. My initial reaction was, why did they all have to do it? And then like 5 minutes later, I was like, no, that's everything. That's the family coming together. Mm-hmm. And I rewound it and I watched it again and like really watched how the family works together to take him down. And I feel like it was really fucking late at night. And I feel like I was kind of zoning out at the end the first time. But like really watching like the parts that they each play with it, it was such a cool way to bring this back and bring the family together.
Yeah, I had the same problem at the end, and I had to rewatch it. And I think even when you look at the way that they not necessarily take the butcher down, but like switch the bodies back when she has to work really closely with Josh and Nyla as well, we see that the solution to like all of her problems is like simply asking for help and working together.
Exactly.
And that she doesn't accomplish anything alone. And I think that's such a nice message that we see throughout the whole film, but I think that is what makes it so heartfelt.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And it really just, like, once I rewatched it, I thought it was just so well done that then I felt bad for having my initial reaction.
Well, this is another thing you got to think about. Millie's going to have a whole lot easier time in school now because because there are several people that are no longer around that just give her so much shit.
That is got better. I guess.
I got all of Ryler's followers on my Instagram.
Exactly.
We miss you, my best friend. So sad.
God, that would be such a good thing to add at the film, as far as like either a mid-credit scene or whatever.
Oh my God, like, Rip Ryler.
Ryler's dead.
No.
And it just has to be Millie doing it.
And it's her like viral Instagram photo at her funeral or something.
See, right. I don't feel like it'd be Millie. I feel like it'd be Josh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Josh? Josh was so funny. Yes. Stole the show, but I did feel like he was a little stereotypical. But I still really enjoyed him.
I liked him.
Go ahead, Jay. But wasn't as well. Right? Yeah. And when I say that, I mean compared to what we normally see.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
What about you, Don?
Well, I was gonna say I like the combination of him and Nyla, or as far as that dynamic of them being the friends, right?
Yeah.
Because normally in these horror movies, and I'm glad that Josh actually said it. Normally in the horror films, those friends get picked off, and there's that moment where Josh and Nyla are together, and he says, "I'm gay, you're black, we're so dead," and they start running. And I immediately thought, like, if you fucking kill the two friends that are always killed off in these movies, I'm going to turn this movie off and call Amazon. But
I don't think Amazon can solve that.
Yeah,
I feel like they can do whatever they want.
It doesn't matter, man. I can call them. I can complain.
He's just gonna annoy them.
Yeah,
because it's their fault. Yeah,
but no, I like that. I think, without making him too much of a stereotype, because there are moments where you see that he is a stereotype.
Yeah.
But he's not the gay best friend who has all the answers, right?
That's true.
He's not the gay best friend who's popular. So there are all these things that he just happens to be a gay friend in the film. And I think that makes us look at him not necessarily more deeply, but you appreciate the things that aren't done to his character that had been done to previous characters who were cast to be gay, or the characters that were written up to be gay. But even the whole aspect of, he's joking around about, like, oh, I'm going to go to homecoming and find one of these football boys and see, if they actually, if they become gender fluid. Just making the jokes with terminology, with gender roles, with sexuality, things like that. To when it happens at the end of the film, he's like, no, and rejects the football player who might have been interested in. And I was at that point, I was kind of cheering. I was like, yeah, go you, Josh. And it immediately flipped to what I knew was going to happen, because with the football player with this hyper masculine identity that so many of them put around themselves, so much of it is just a facade. And so when he gets rejected by Josh, that's when the guy, calls him the F word and all these other things. But it's quickly capped off by the butcher. And I think I did the chef's kiss right at that moment.
That was one of the best entrances I've ever seen.
That nice little touch to Candyman. It was great.
Yeah.
Yep.
But just, I like the fact that Josh touched on what the problem is with toxic masculinity in that scene, and toxic heterosexuality in that scene, which is, dude, you're you're so sexually repressed and confused about who you are and afraid to be who you are. You just come back with homophobia. That's what you do. And one of the best interviews involving, I wouldn't even categorize it as homophobia, but one of the best interviews I heard that involved the idea of heterosexuality and homophobia or homosexuality was not Hugh Grant, Hugh Jackman was being interviewed about, hey, when I'm in Australia, things are cool. I'll go to gay bars, I'll go here, I'll go there, whatever, right? So he's explaining, like, I have a show on Broadway, and some of the cast members will go out drinking. They'll take me to a gay bar. We'll hang out. And, the interviewer is like, oh, if any man asks you that, it's like, yeah, all the time. He said, well, how do you handle it? It's like, I'm not gay. And and that works. He's like, yeah, people are respectful when you tell them you're not interested in it. And he said, people get more offended here than in Australia. In Australia, somebody says something to me and they're like, hey, it's like, you're really cute. What, can I buy you a drink? He's like, yeah, but I'm not gay. And he's like, oh, well, I'll get you a drink anyway. And he's just like, that's the way it should be. It's like, if you're trying to talk to me and I'm not interested, walk away, go about your business. Don't turn it into some other negative thing like a lot of guys here will, which is, like a man comes up and asks you out or ask you to buy a drink or whatever. And it turns into, oh, no way, I'm not a, what? And when really all it should be is like, damn, I turned on another dude. Yay, me. And I think that's what it really is about. It's somebody saw somebody of my same sex saw me as sexually desirable and they saw me the same way I look at women, and I didn't like it.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing. Men in America aren't used to taking no for an answer, or at least not being okay taking no for an answer.
Right.
And they follow up again, and they assume, like, they can't just accept, no, man, I'm not interested, but hang out and chat anyway. And so since guys can't handle that, they assume that any guy who hit on them would treat them the way they treat women.
Exactly.
And that's
why, if you do feel like uncomfortable if someone thinks you're gay, maybe you should rethink how you treat women.
Right?
And that says a lot about you.
Yeah, that's exactly my point right there. They have conditioned themselves to feel this way based on their fucking behavior.
Yeah.
I don't know. That makes me nuts.
People have to stop being threatened by...
Yeah, it's 2021.
Sexuality, gender. My thing is learn and come out of yourself. And like we started off talking about traveling. I think that's another thing about exploration. It's not just traveling, physical traveling and exploration, but also the exploration of learning things and exposing yourself to different people and a different environment. Because a lot of times people are not willing to get out of their comfort zone because people around them don't allow them or make them too comfortable in the area that they're in. So they can't say something that goes against, the town they were raised in, the people they were raised around. The first transgender person I was introduced to was a cousin of mine when I was like 10 or 11. Mm-hmm. And even at the time I understood, and this was back in the 80s, I understood what it meant. Peaches used to be a boy. Peaches is now a girl. And there were family members like, well, I don't want to be around her, or they used other terms, but I don't want to be around her. It makes me uncomfortable. And I think I might have been a teenager, but like second or third time Peaches has come home to visit, somebody, one of these guys who, wouldn't have been picked on, just thinks that he was going to be the person that Peaches was going to be interested in, which I thought was hilarious. I'm like, Peaches is fine. Like, Peaches is hot. Peaches is not looking for you.
It's always like the worst. Like,
and I'm like, are you worried that you might be interested? Because if you're not, Peaches is not going to approach you. Peaches has a husband. She's married. And he's a good-looking guy. But yeah, it just comes down to just ignorance, paranoia, and the fact that a lot of people are, stuck in their ways and stuck geographically.
Yeah, and I think we all need to get out of our comfort zones and look at, like, if homosexuality, if being trans, if any kind of gender questioning or identity questioning in general makes you uncomfortable, there's probably a reason, and you should look within yourselves and do a lot of self-reflection, because it should not make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's somebody else's journey.
Exactly.
Your job as part of that journey is let them go on their journey.
Yeah.
You are in no way a side mission or side quest.
Exactly.
So.
I'm always like curious, like, are people scared of trans people because they think, well, what if I discover I'm not happy who I am? Is that the fear? Like, all I can really figure out, like the whole bathroom nonsense, right?
Oh my God.
All I can figure out is that you're really scared of men.
Yeah.
Right.
You're really scared of how men treat things they want to fuck. And I don't mean just women, or I'm talking anything that a man wants to put his dick in, whether it's a vacuum cleaner, right? That's what you're scared of. You're scared that men will do anything. And that's not a trans problem. That's a fucking toxic masculinity problem.
Right.
And anger is pushed in the wrong direction.
Exactly. And honestly, that behavior that you're afraid of is behavior that you're allowing by enforcing such awful misogyny and gender stereotypes. When if men were just raised from day one being told don't do certain things, it would be different.
Most definitely. And if you're looking at legal history when it comes to things like miscegenation, anti-sodomy laws, which are basically anti-gay laws. There's really no other way to put it. What you find is white men of means, those laws don't apply to them.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at court cases from going back to 1664, outlawed interracial marriage, interracial sex. And it was all about punishing white women if they engaged in this by stating, oh, if you have sex with a black male, and if that black male turns out to be an enslaved person, we're going to change you from being a free woman into being a slave as well. Meanwhile, guess what a lot of white men were doing?
Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, they were victimizing and sexually assaulting black women that were either owned or free, because it didn't matter if you were a free or enslaved woman of color. You could be attacked at any time. And so they wrote these laws to prevent any possible black men from doing it, because it made no possible sense as to why a white woman would willingly get with one of them. to where we have terms like white slavery coined in the early 20th century, because it was about white women going from the South, going to the Midwest, places like Chicago. And if they couldn't find a job, they ended up becoming prostitutes or working in brothels or working in bars. And so politicians started creating these laws called white slavery laws, because the fear was these white women are going to these places, and if they're white slaves, who are going to be the bosses? Who are going to be the ones that are actually in charge of them?
Yeah.
Or even Miami. Miami was a hotspot for gay activity for wealthy white men, and they would bring in whatever type of men that they wanted to be entertained by. So you had men that were coming from the Bahamas, Haiti, Cuba, that were brought in for their entertainment, while there were laws that prevented man-on-man intercourse from taking place. But these places, it was, laws don't apply to us. So it was, reading the way that these people reacted to this stuff, you're kind of like, holy crap, right? As long as I have money and I'm a man and I'm white, I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
Boy, thank God that changed.
I was about to say.
Well, now you can have money, and you can do whatever the hell you want to if you have money.
I wouldn't know.
Maybe one day, damn it.
I'm just cashing these checks from this podcast. So
this podcast brought to you by stimulus checks. Still waiting for them to hit.
So we got a little away from this, but I want to go back to Josh, because one of the best scenes in this film is when the butcher's tied up and Josh's mom comes home.
Oh my God.
And Josh tries to convince his mother that this is actually Millie and they're role playing. And his mom is like, isn't that a sex thing? And he's like, yes. And I love that he says, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm straight. And his mom's reaction, like, that would be hilarious in itself, right?
Yeah.
His mom going, oh, honey, you're a lot of things, but straight is not one of them. Oh my God, that kills me.
Look, even beyond that, you got to appreciate the way the mom is. Like, she knows her son. She's a hardworking mom. I mean, I love how the fact she said, look, I'm tired. I've been slinging peanuts, to all these assholes. Like, and I immediately thought, I'm like, man, I haven't had peanuts on a plane in years. I just get those cookies. But, you just see how she reacts, and it's kind of like, I know who you are. I accept you. It was kind of the old adage, I guess, 20 years ago when people were coming out. The response that people typically got from family members was, yeah, I know you're gay.
Mm-hmm.
And here it's her kind of like, okay, honey, I know you're not straight. It's just so smooth. It seems so natural for the actress in this role.
Yeah.
It's, I know my son, like, stop with the act. What's really going on?
It's so good with, like, you have the tension that this fucking serial killer is tied up right there, right? Then he has to instantly come up with an explanation. And yeah, it's hilarious and it adds to the humor and it makes this scene better. But the amount of thought that, like, how quickly he did this this was a solid fucking try. It didn't work, but
Right.
but it was a good plan. And I mean, at that age, being able to admit to your mom, like say it was true, right? Being able to admit to your mom what you're doing right there, that would be fucking terrifying to me. And like, I don't know. So there's just multiple layers working here for me. And I love this whole part. And then, of course, you know, the butcher gets free and gets away. But wow, I love this scene.
You can really tell like how much thought Michael Kennedy put into like all of these little moments because they're so specific that I don't think a straight man ever could have written this.
No.
But they're just so perfect.
I think if a straight man wrote it, we end the joke at, I don't know how to tell you this, I'm straight.
Yeah.
And that would be a funny one-off thing that we would instantly forget.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's exactly why representation matters so much. Like, I can't write perfect jokes for a situation that I've never been in. Right. I can try, or I can go to friends who have been in it and run it by them and adjust it. But having that voice of experience, I'm not saying he's had a serial killer tied up and told his mom he was straight, but like, he's been in enough situations where he knew where the humor should go with this. And that is why people voicing their own shit matters so fucking much. And it gives us that factor of new things we haven't seen.
I got really lucky and I was able to do a panel with the actors and Michael Kennedy. And they're like such good friends in real life. It's really adorable. They all know each other really well and they're super close in real life. And that definitely you can see on screen. Like their on-screen chemistry as a friend group is perfect.
I always say how important that is. Like you look at Host and
oh my God.
Like everybody in the Zoom is friends in real life. And that comes through. And you can't fake that. Mm-hmm. No matter how good you can fake chemistry, real chemistry will always shine through more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's great in this. And it really plays into everything.
Definitely.
That's cool. How'd you get to do that?
Fangoria. They asked me. It was so nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really
I didn't realize that. Must have been the one day I wasn't on Twitter.
It's on Fangoria's YouTube channel if anyone wants to watch it.
Fangoria's YouTube channel. Awesome.
You should all subscribe.
You should.
Fangoria.
Man, I love the stuff Fangoria is doing.
They are like
relaunch. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like wow. Just
they're so incredible. To think that like in June we thought that they were probably gonna like be gone for good, and now Tara has taken it to a place where like they have a production company is just it's incredible. I'm such a fan.
I just love how it ties into and I'm going to say this half jokingly, but there's this like women are taking over in horror, right? Women, last I fucking checked, Mary Shelley was a woman. So shut the fuck up, everyone. You know, and
also like who else experiences that amount of horror? Like
no shit. And I mean, horror's always been about women. It was just the representation behind the camera skewed.
Right.
Exactly.
And I fucking love how Fangoria itself is now like this total symbol of what horror is, because it died and it literally rose from the grave and it became extremely female empowered. And Fangoria is once again leading the fucking way. Yeah. And I mean,
and doing it
there's nothing more horror than that. Like, that's amazing. Like, that's such a cool thing for this community.
They really are like such a perfect representation of what horror is.
Well, and like you take Tara, you know, she had Tragedy Girls.
Yeah.
And Tragedy Girls is just so fucking good. And it really just kind of, I don't want to say it opened the door to where we're going right now, but it definitely like turned the car. It was like, we can fucking make shit like this. We can make it great. We can make it entertaining to everyone. And Tara has such a great grasp on that. So I'm so excited to see everything Fangoria is doing. Also, get her on my show, okay? All right, so
this is just turning into a Tara fan hour, but it's fine.
We did a Crispin Glover hour a couple weeks ago, so it's fine. We just do that now. But anyway,
as you should.
Exactly. Going back to this film, I don't know if there's anything else major you guys want to talk about, but the overall thing I just want to hit is kind of the same thing I just said about Fangoria. I feel like this movie took everything that's quote unquote changing in horror, even though I don't feel like it's changing so much as we're accepting things and we're getting proper representation behind cameras. That's changing, and proper representation getting paid. Mm-hmm. And this film for me hits that so hard because women are literally switching out with men, and we're getting great shit out of it. But this film also hits everything else that's happening. Michael Kennedy and I lost his name. Who's the other writer?
Christopher Landon.
Thank you. I had Landon and I couldn't think of his first name. Like we're getting homosexual people. We're getting trans people making movies. We're getting Black people, representation everywhere. And I look at mainstream and how we still have Oscars So White, and we still have we're
really
taking
far
steps.
behind. We're getting there, but like slowly.
Yeah. And I feel like horror is once again going, fuck you, we'll lead the way then.
Yeah.
God,
definitely. God, I love this genre.
I love this whole community, but yeah. Well, I love most of this community.
I would like to know if you guys think there will be a sequel, because I would really like one, and I would like to know more about the butcher.
I would like to see something with the knife. I mean, maybe
that's one thing that I was like, just the knife wasn't explained very well. I thought that was one of my only problems.
I didn't feel like it had to be. I actually liked the ridiculousness. Like we normally get like this big, almost like some movies give you like the flashback to like the Aztecs literally using it,
Right.
And instead we got the most 2021 explanation ever. I fucking Googled it. Here's a paragraph. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I loved that. I thought that was nuts and so great. And I would like to see maybe a prequel. Like I'd like to see the butcher fucking nuts. There's also part of me that would like to know, like, I feel like one scene is missing, and it's purposely missing to add to the terror. But I want an answer from the ambulance to returning to her house.
Okay, that was one thing I had a problem with. But then you kind of want to have that mystery too. So I think maybe because there are a couple of other moments where he's shot, and there's definitely this question of like, is he something more than a human? Because this guy's just kind of like Michael Myers. Michael Myers seems to live through everything, and apparently, I guess with the latest one, he survived the fire. Mm-hmm. So it would be good to have some of those. I don't want to call them gaps, but some of those things answered. But I think this film does a good job of allowing those things to live in the story without having to be answered.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree. I guess I would just like to even have like a quick flash to the ambulance of like the two people dead or.
Oh yeah.
I just want a little bit more.
I could have done without the flat line. Like, I know you're coming back. There's 20 minutes left in the film. Do you think I think we're just eating bananas and pancakes the rest of the time? I've seen a horror film before. Like, this isn't a major surprise for me. And I think it would have actually added to the tension more. Like, I knew he's coming back.
Yeah.
But I think, just a quick shot. What I'd really like is, the ambulance, open and you see them dead and him, cracking his neck each way. And then he just starts walking. Because it still leaves, is he supernatural now because of this knife? Or is it he's just just survived another thing, you know? I don't know. Is it that he's a white guy, so he gets to live? I don't know.
But there are a lot of things that you could look at. I mean, but the one thing I focused in on as the film progressed and ended was the knife at the beginning seems to be calling him. So is there some supernatural thing going on?
Yeah. Because he was like a legend, wasn't he?
Yeah. And you know what? That was one thing we didn't talk about was this cool idea of urban legends and the power that they have, and this idea that in this film, or at least at the beginning with the 4 students who are killed, 4 teens that are killed, they're approaching that. I'm like, no, that guy would be a geriatric now if that happened then. What it happened again in the 90s. Oh, well, that sounds like a bunch of garbage. This didn't actually. So I like that they leave the door open to maybe he is something else.
Yeah.
Maybe he isn't human because he has no name. So why not go there?
He has a name. They say it at one point.
Oh, I thought there's a
newscast. There's a newscast where they talk about him escaping, and they say his name.
Oh, I'm just curious as to how he came across the knife, why he used it in the first place, or how he knew how to use it. Like, I felt like there were a lot of those things that are not necessary to be answered, but I'm just curious.
Or even why that dad, who has that ridiculous house, why that knife just how he got the knife, because they were able to do the Google search and realize this was used in sacrifices, and was this one of these black market deals, or was this one of these things of, hey, I have enough money to buy it?
He's probably just a psycho like me and collects knives. No, he had a lot of weird shit.
Bed Bath and Way Beyond.
Yeah. I mean, he had a lot of weird shit. This guy definitely knew what this knife was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's too much of a collector not to. But I think it's interesting that, has the knife called to him? Has the knife called to someone else? Or was it oh, you're a fucking psycho. I'm calling to you. I don't know. I think that a lot of that you could use in sequels and stuff. And I think that a sequel or a prequel would be fascinating in that we would lose the main thing that makes this movie what it is.
Yeah.
And so you could explore a totally different area with it.
It would be completely different. And it would have to change the tone a lot, I think. But I'm just I just want to know. I'm just really curious.
But I mean, you take Landon made a Happy Death Day, and that's basically Groundhog's Day redone as a horror film. Now we have Freaky Friday redone as a horror film. You can do some crazy shit with another thing you don't expect to be horror.
Exactly.
And incorporate it into a sort of franchise with this, because we don't even have to follow these people. The knife itself has this power.
Exactly.
So it could be anybody.
Right.
That's sort of what they did with Happy Death Day too. It was the same characters, but a different character was focused on.
That would be a good thing to see them continue on, or possibly it's a prequel involving the knife. So not necessarily a sequel, but a prequel involving the knife, and then how it gets to this guy's house. Maybe the knife, because remember that the rules were, if the sacrifice doesn't work, the bodies switch, and you have 24 hours before it's permanent. So I could imagine you just turn it into, you keep stabbing different people and changing bodies.
Yeah.
Or maybe explain it as there was this rash of random murders. People just started killing people, and it turns out it was one person. They just kept switching into somebody else's body. Hold on a second. Let me write that one down.
Trying to kill the butcher.
Well, you know what? That would even be a real cool thing. Look at it.
Isn't that just Jason Goes to Hell?
Well, no. Why is he at that house? Why does he go to that house?
Exactly.
Is he going to? Maybe he's going to. He knows the knife is there. He's going to get the knife. And this is part of the legend. It's he's been changing bodies this entire time, and now he's got to go back and get this knife.
Wait, that's so smart.
That would be great. And then especially if like everything with the butcher is true and he has been around all these years.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh
I hope they do
God.
that. And if we just ruined it for you, Michael Kennedy, to send the check to the right place, we will delete this episode.
Or just give us credit, I'll take that.
Come on the show.
Yeah. You should message him. He's so nice. He'd totally come on the show. I think. I'm just going to speak for him. No.
Good work.
You should ask, though.
There you go.
Just might. All right. I got some questions for the two of you.
I knew you would.
All right. These are the questions I always ask ask of myself when it comes to these types of movies. Well, one, who would you not want to be switched with? Who would you want to switch with? And then I kind of already asked the other one about how would someone know it's you? But
yeah, no, I've been waiting for that one. All right, Corey, you want to go first or second?
Either.
Go ahead.
Okay, I think I would want to be switched with someone probably like really tall and strong, like Vince Vaughn. Not Vince Vaughn though, but someone that like, because I think it'd be cool to just sort of like throw things around. I don't know, and be really strong, and get a like different perspective on things. I think it'd be cool to switch with someone like Beyonce, obviously. Everyone says that, but I would just be fascinated to see what goes on in her day-to-day life.
And you're going to find out it's so boring.
Honestly, like that would make me feel better because it'd be like,
right.
Well, if it's boring, then, but I definitely would not want to switch with like a Republican. I don't know.
I was going to say, what if we let you switch bodies with Vince Vaughn on election day? Does that change your mind?
Oh, honestly, if it were election day, that would be a very different story.
Maybe like this past election day, you were still 17. So then
I was about to say you want to be able to vote.
All right. So I'm going to take both of these. My first answer, who I want to switch with, this is going to be, I'm going super nerdum. You ready? Here we go.
Okay.
Yes.
I have been a huge pro wrestling fan my entire fucking life.
Here we go.
I want to trade bodies with John Morrison because number one, he's fucking gorgeous. Number two, he's a parkour guy and I can't do that normally. So I want to use his body to experience it. Then I want to have a fucking match to know what it's like. There you go. That's that answer. All right. Okay. And then whoever is... No, I'm not going there. All right, let's... Bad joke. Edit that out. All right. So who would I not? Florida man, 100%.
What? I feel like you'd be unstoppable.
Oh, man.
They would try to take you down. It just wouldn't work. You would be like Vince Vaughn in this.
Well, hang on. If I switch bodies with Donald Trump while the impeachment's going and I agree to testify...
Now, hold on now. I think we have some ideas. We might need to find this knife.
I do feel like if I tried to stab him with the knife, though, then Secret Service might be all over me on that.
No,
I feel like
this was just switch.
Oh,
Oh, I don't have to use Ladola? Cool.
No, it's kind of the traditional rules where you wish on a magic quarter or lamp or whatever. You wake up that next morning and you're that person.
Man, I don't know what I would do. I guess I wouldn't tweet. All right.
I would definitely tweet. I'd be like, I've been lying this entire time. Y'all were stupid and I was playing you.
All right. So how would
it was all part of his plan?
Yeah.
The way people would know it was me. Number one, obviously I would insult Donald Trump. Number two, I drop F-bombs like it's going out of style and I have to get it done in a certain amount of time. So there's that. There's my random fucking movie quotes, but I don't quote normal shit from movies. I don't hit big lines. I pull out some random fucking thing. Like my wife for the longest time had no idea that in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It is not an important line that they say he's a suitor because I say it so fucking much. She thought it was super important for this fucking film. I say that too. And then she was like, what the fuck? These lines don't even matter. And that's me. I would be pulling out random shit. you would be like, why the fuck are you making this quote? And why are you changing it to fit the context of this moment?
And I responded with a GIF of boo.
You did.
And James would know it's me because I would say GIF and I would say it is not GIF. The guy who created it said it's GIF.
It said it's GIF, yes.
Thank you. Corey, you are definitely adopted from me. I will adopt you. Thank you. The guy who created it said it's a GIF.
Exactly. GIF. I'm so sick of having this argument with people. It's GIF.
So anyways. I'm refusing to weigh in while I'm outnumbered. All right. So
it's okay to be wrong.
You're entitled to your wrong opinion. That's fine.
You guys enjoy your giraffics. That's great. So, Corey, did you answer how we know it was you?
I would probably.
Or was that part of the secret so that we can't do it?
Oh, no. I would probably. I have a lot of useless celebrity knowledge, so I would probably go into like Pitbull's life story because I have it memorized because I was a very big Pitbull fan as a kid, and then go through Tom Hiddleston's entire filmography, and then I would probably talk about Broadway, recite some random show tune from something that Patti LuPone has been in that no one has ever seen, and then I would describe Patti LuPone's legal battle with Andrew Lloyd Webber in depth, and I assume by then everyone would be so annoyed with me that they would have to assume.
That's Corey.
Also, I would be like, let's go to Spooky Swirls. There's that as well. So any serial killers listening, now you know what to do to convince our families and friends. Good work.
Wait, Dawn never answered.
Damn, I almost made it. All right.
I just don't care.
You guys are so nice to each other. Every time I'm on the show.
If you really listen, he's almost never mean to me. It's really just me.
Yeah.
But I present it in a way that makes it sound like it's both of us.
Definitely.
It'll be all right. So this is what happens with only children. They have to lash out at others.
Wait, are you an only child?
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
Where did you bury the others? I used my backyard.
Your backyard? That's so lame. I went to the ocean.
Oh, man. All right. Go ahead.
All right. For legal reasons, I will not say who I would not want to be. It's James knows who it is. Actually, that would work because I could get that person put in jail. In seriousness, it would be.
I put it in the chat, guys.
Actually, who would I not want to be? I wouldn't want to be Elon Musk.
Yes.
Because there's no way I could live with lying to people about my backstory that much because I'm self-made. I'm a
I put it in the chat.
I saw. Friends of the Necronomicon.com can learn who it's with an extra $5 donation.
That's how we should open our Patreon right there. Yeah.
You should do that. All the horror gossip.
We'll start dropping secrets and you have to pay for them.
The secrets of the Necronomicon.
That would be 100% worth it.
I think as far as who I would switch into, I would probably kind of the same along the same lines as Corey. I would want to switch into let's just say 15, 16-year-old version of me. So if there's a kid like who is kind of like me or, of that background. So knowing what I know now at 42 years of age, going into a 15-year-old, 16-year-old like me,
mm-hmm.
and, excuse me, a 15 or 16-year-old male, let's say 6'2", and then understand all the stuff that I know about the things that I've learned over these years, plus what I would know about sports by that time, where I could go ahead and game the system within, high school and collegiate athletics. To where I could get to go to school for free and then basically say, screw you guys, I'm going to go get a $100 million contract.
Wow.
But nice. I guess the other one would be, if I can't do that, it would have to be some world leader. Like along those lines to where I could actually do something beneficial for people, as opposed to, and then, enough time to actually get out of that body and return to mine. Like $2,000 stimulus checks for everybody, backdated till March of 2020.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, well, I signed the executive order and it's done. But as far as how anyone would know me, as far as general stuff, if it was like a group of people that know me, it would be like random trivia stuff. It would have to be certain quotes and things that I say. I would probably have to mention James Baldwin around once or twice in the conversation. Food, all you'd have to do is offer me something with mayonnaise or cheese, and I would then tell you why I'm not going to eat it. That'd be a good way. But as far as the ironclad ways that someone would know, only about 3 people would have information that I've only given to them and no one else knows about. So if I went up to James, I would say, hey, remember at the time that blah, 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 blah. And you're like, holy shit, what are you doing in that body?
Yeah, let me put it in the chat. I'm just kidding. All right, so that brings us to the point of the show where we talk about other movies you should see if you liked this film. And I'm going to go first because Don always steals mine. So I'm just going to tell you to watch every fucking teen movie that there is until you're fucking sick of it. That's not really true. Don't watch all the 80s ones. Just watch a couple. But watch everything that's going on now. And here's my honest reasoning. I feel like teen movies helped me with my own teenagers. Not because I look at them as stereotypes from these movies, but because we're able to engage in conversations about it. Like, is that really what high school's like? Or like, how would this situation play out in your high school? And it gives me a door to talk to them. And sometimes that's fucking hard. Like, I literally, Don, I don't give a shit about the NFL. I always check the Vikings score because my son is a diehard Vikings fan. And I always check the Bears score because my other son is a Bears fan. And I always check when the Bears play the Vikings. And then I talk to my third son instead. And, but these doors get harder and harder to find. And I have an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 15-year-old. And doors are getting harder and harder and harder. So these films, especially like Freaky, like this one is going to be so great to talk to them about because it is different and it is, it's something we haven't talked about before. Like Ready or Not was a huge film that we all loved. So we were able to just like have this thing that we communicated with. And so my real point was watch the teen comedies and shit that's out now if you have teenagers, because although that's not what your teen is necessarily experiencing, it builds those fucking doors. All right, you guys can give some real answers now.
Of course, I'm going to let Corey go.
Okay, so I'm going to say, obviously, Tragedy Girls. That movie is a masterpiece. Yeah, Jennifer's Body. It's sort of outdated, but it is very similar with the comedy. Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse was, I think, Christopher Landon's first film, I want to say. It's really funny. It's about Boy Scouts and the zombie apocalypse. It's like genuinely a good time. And if you like teen movies, Edge of 17 and 8th Grade are probably the closest. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go in a different direction for mine. I'm going to go all non-horror because it, you've got this movie that could be a good transition for people from teen movies to slashers, and from slashers to teen movies. So since the two of you already mentioned the horror, I'm going to go with the teen comedy stuff. Or teen related comedy stuff. So obviously Freaky Friday, The Hot Chick, Jumanji, both of them, 13 going on 30, 17 again, The Change Up, Face Off, where you literally are in the other person's face, took his face, All of Me, Heart and Souls, Heaven Can Wait, a classic one.
I would also throw in Big. I forgot.
Yes.
Big.
Yeah.
Big. I rewatched Big like last year, and it's still not totally, but mostly held up, and it was still a ton of fun.
That reminds me, I got my fortune done by Zoltar.
How did that go for you?
I woke up in the same body, so.
Yeah. Keep dreaming, buddy.
One day. Oh, I'll say watch the Community episode that does Freaky Friday because it's really funny.
Oh yeah, and Anna and the Apocalypse. Did I mention that?
Oh yeah.
And then you should check out our episodes on Anna and the Apocalypse, Jennifer's Body, Tragedy Girls. All right.
Oh, if you want to see more blonde teenage girls kill people, Becky.
Yes. You know, we have an episode on Becky. I don't remember who the guest was.
Someone super relevant.
All right. So let's bring this back to you, Cory. Tell everybody where they can find you online and remind them again about this great thing you have coming our way soon.
So I have a podcast coming. It's called The Scream Teens, and it will be on the Anatomy of a Scream podcast network. And my blog is gorycory.com. I'm at Gory Cory Horror on Twitter and _Gory Cory _ on Instagram. And I'm basically always on Twitter or Instagram.
Nice. That's where I am too. I feel like I don't need a body anymore. Like I've just switched places with the internet. All right, let's wrap this up then. So, as always, I am James Sabata.
I am Don Gilroy.
Actually, I'm Don Guillory.
Are you sure?
Well, either way, one of you will be here next week with me. So we'll see you on Monday for Saw with William Sterling here on the Necronoma.com.